Hey everyone, welcome back to the Stay on Your Bike podcast. This week I've got a really special guest. I'm super excited to get chatting with her. She is a really good friend of mine. I've not seen her for a long time, and she's, well, when I introduce her in a moment, you'll realize she's an amazing, accomplished bike rider and just an all-round amazing person. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome on Leigh Donovan. How are you doing?
Yay! It's good to be here.
Oh, so cool to have you on and see you. To be fair, I haven't got my glasses on, Leigh, but you don't look any older than you did back in the day.
That's because you don't have your glasses on. I can promise you that I do. I try not to wear my glasses too, so I like go, I look like I'm about 30. But then I put my glasses on, I'm like, damn, you look 60, girl. And I'm only 54.
I know it sucks, doesn't it? What are you? I
Yeah.
mean, what? Yeah, you're the same age as me. When were you 54?
I just turned 54 December 11th.
Okay, so you're like miles older than me. I turned
Yeah.
54
What
last week.
did you just turn? Oh, happy birthday. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, but
It's a good
uh,
age. Honestly, it's funny. I never would have realized it. I remember celebrating my dad's 50th birthday, and we bought all those signs over the hill. Like it was so old to be
yeah,
50
I
years
know,
old.
I know.
And it's interesting now that I'm in my 50s. I don't feel that. I feel like maybe 50 is just different than it was, 25 years ago. But I like personally, I actually like being in my 50s.
Cool, cool. Embracing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm alive, so I guess that's the best thing you can say. I woke up this morning and I'm still here.
Yeah. And I mean, you've been a professional athlete all your life and you look after yourself and, so I think like, times have changed. People when, in the 50s when we were kids, they weren't really going out doing downhill runs and stuff that we still do, were they? And, it was just a different time and I think yeah, I think you've just got to keep doing it until you can't, haven't you? And then, that time will come, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think if you just, I mean, sure, yeah, I'm not going to be shredding, uh, gnarly downhills when I'm, 60 or 70 years old, probably. But I plan on riding my bike as long as it's possible. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't, I mean, I still like that feeling of gnarly. Like, I just I like to scare the shit out of myself every once in a while to know I still kind of have it.
Yeah.
But I would say it's less and less
Yeah.
as I'm aging.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I obviously now there's so much social media and we were just chatting before about all the teams going to Laguna and riding Telonics and stuff and I can still remember myself riding there and I think, wow, I want to be doing that and then you go away from it and you think, I'm not sure I'll be doing it quite like they're doing it, but in your mind.
I know. I mean, because I know those trails so well,
Yeah.
and to see how fast they were riding down those trails. I mean, I know equipment is a lot better than it maybe was when I was racing, but it's hard to imagine taking that kind of risk now at this stage of my life.
Yeah.
And back then, I don't even know if we even questioned it. It was
No.
just that was our job, but B, our how we like lived.
Yeah.
That was living like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, and as you don't do it as intensely all the time, that kind of fades, doesn't it? And you start questioning, should I do that? You want to do it? Should I do it? That's how my mind works anyway.
Oh, I do. I do.
Yeah.
I think that especially if you've been a professional athlete, I would say probably 99% of professional athletes have a pretty high level of ego.
Mm.
And so it's really hard to check yourself sometimes. But as you step away from being a professional athlete And you go through all the crap that you go through as you move away from being at that level, which is also difficult. um, you do find a place where you're like, okay, I was good. That's cool. Got to remind yourself that, and kind of live within a space that, anything can happen, right? I mean, shit happens. But the reality is that you have to check your ego all the time when you ride. And I know when I go to Whistler, that is one place where I just want to be a hot shot and I just want to impress everybody. Oh, look at that 50-year-old girl clearing those gaps. And I always have to remind myself when I'm dropping in, you're an old motherfucker. Just you
Yeah,
don't have to impress anybody.
I
There's
know.
nobody's watching you. But my ego
Yeah,
thinks that I'm somebody, important.
yeah, I know. I know. And for some bizarre reason, you think, oh, they're expecting me to still be okay on my bike, and then you're thinking, actually, they don't care. No one's thinking.
I and I mean, there is that pressure no matter
Yeah.
what. It's like, if we watch riders right now that are in the field and they're shredding, and in 20 years from now, they're going to still be good riders, right? Like they're going to be good. They may
Yeah.
not be competing at the World Cup level anymore, but they're still going to be good.
Yeah.
And they're going to feel the same sense of like pressure that, people have these expectations of you, because unfortunately, some people do. And
Mhm.
that does affect the way you behave when you're, I would say, a hobbyist.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I spent so many years away from the bike, because that pressure it was too much for me.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, recently you've moved to out of California into Colorado, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. We're in Colorado.
And obviously growing up in Southern California, I think it was a really good place. Obviously, you started off with BMXing like a lot of people did our age, and then moved into the mountain biking, and the scene there was huge. We all wanted to go and ride there, and we managed to get there for times, and stayed there and rode with you guys, and it was amazing. um but what's it like now living in Colorado? Is it totally different?
Yeah. I mean, I think when you move anywhere at, like, let's say in your 50s, and you have built a community somewhere your whole life, um, it's tough.
Mhm.
I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say like building a community in my 50s is very difficult. Um, it's beautiful here. And I mean, luckily, I live with my best friend, who is also my husband.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky I have that. I'm lucky I have Stickman. But I have walked away from a community that was really solid, especially in the bike community,
Mhm.
and I do not have that here in Colorado. And honestly, I I've made a pretty big shift in my life with our move here. I'm back in college, so I'm back at university now,
Yeah.
and I'm going for my psychology degree. So something I've
Congratulations.
been wanting for a while,
Okay.
um, and so uh, that's been really good for me. And I think that my community will kind of get built around where I land within that realm.
Yeah.
I am part of a women's mountain bike club here, and I'm hoping to kind of build more community there as well. But I go off of the good stuff, right? We have an amazing neighborhood. We live in a home that is really peaceful. Southern California, we lived in a little tiny house. It was very freaking loud. I mean, it was beautiful. I loved my neighbors there too, but here I sleep better. At this age, sleeping is really important.
Yeah.
I mean, at any age, really. But so there's a lot of good stuff. And Stick is so happy at SRAM. And that community for him has been really a great space for him to grow. And
Yeah.
He's, a big part of the e-commerce team now, though. So he's totally doing something different aside from marketing.
Yeah.
So he's learning and growing too. So, you know, it's hard to step away from the excitement of our community, of racing, of all the things that we were kind of centered around in Southern California.
Yeah.
But it's also a time of growth and, reflecting on what we want to do for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. Cool. And is how far away from Shram are you? Because you.
Like 3 miles.
Oh, really? No way. Wow.
Like 5K.
No way.
Yes,
So,
Nick rides his bike all the time.
so is the riding good there? Is there a good riding scene?
I think there is, honestly. I think we haven't quite embraced that yet. We've only been here for a couple years and we're in our third winter right now, and there's not a ton of riding in the winter. So, I mean, I'm sure there's people that do ride in the winter. SoCalers, not so much.
Not so much. No.
I'm like, oh, it's cold out there. No, thank you.
I
I'll go
don't.
to the gym.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be keen to ride where we live either. I don't.
No, I noticed where you live. I was
Yeah,
like, dang, you are up there.
yeah. I don't. I think it's only stopped raining once in the last month.
Oh,
It's grim.
I mean, it's beautiful. It's funny. I was just we were just reading something about Noah Kahn. You know who Noah Kahn is, right? The musician, and he was talking about. I think one of the lyrics in his new song is about they only take photos, or maybe it's an old song. They only take photos of where I live in the summer, and because he's from Vermont, and it's like you. It's always raining, it's cold, it's snowing. So only the photos that are captured are from the summer. And
Yeah.
I just thought that was such a funny thing to say because it's true.
Yeah.
Anywhere that it rains a ton or snows, the photos are always from the most beautiful time of the year.
Yeah, for sure. Well, when you were in Southern California, you kind of moved around a little bit, didn't you? I mean, I remember, where you lived, sort of nearer to the beach, and then I remember when you and Stick bought that property up in the hills near where Kathy Cecil lives. I don't know. Did you ever build a house there or not? Don't think you did you?
No, no, because well, when we bought the 5 acres by Kathy Sessler, we also were getting ready to start Tangerine, the clothing store.
Of course, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it just and the timing just didn't work out. So we just ended up buying like a regular, some house, like a track house. And then eventually the property was worth so much money that we were like, well, let's just sell it
Yeah.
because um we're not going to build on it. So we sold the property, and if the market hadn't crashed in 2008, we probably would be pretty wealthy. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
fortunately, there's that investment thing happened and it didn't work in our favor. But you know, that was a really good time of our lives. Biking really afforded me the opportunity to open that retail store with Jen Gabrielli
Hmm.
and Jeff Stieber from Intense. So, the four of us with Stickman, we all kind of, we all had a lot of fun for that almost 10 years of Tangerine. It was
Was
awesome.
it? Wow.
Almost 10 years. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I remember
It
coming there
was.
and it was super flash. Like I think Jeff did a lot of the fabricating and stuff himself, didn't he, as well as all you guys helping. And yeah, it was cool as. And
Yeah. Jeff made all our beautiful mirrors, his paintings. He did a lot of the build outs, him and Stick.
yeah,
And Stick did all the computer advertising, photography.
yeah,
And Jen and I ran the store and did all the buying, and it was great. I mean, it
yeah,
was, when I look back at my life, it was the one time of my life where I wasn't looking for work. I was, it was probably the happiest time of my life as far as like feeling fulfilled,
yeah,
chasing dreams, not feeling like I was having to renegotiate a contract every year like I did before and after that,
hmm,
which I do not miss at all. And
yeah,
constantly have compassion for athletes that have to go through that. It is a brutal time of the year.
yeah. It is. Well, let's talk a bit about the bikes because I guess that's what
Yeah.
the podcast is mainly about. So
Okay.
obviously, where did you grow up and get into BMXing? Whereabouts in Southern California was that?
So the BMX track that was near my house was called the Orange YMCA BMX track, pretty popular. A lot of international riders have trained there. Unfortunately, they've closed it now.
I know.
But yeah, I one day asked my cousin to drive me over there because she had just gotten her license, and I'd always seen these lights on at night over at this area. I didn't know it was a BMX track. And the second we pulled in and I saw the BMX track, I wasn't a kid that had a BMX bike. I wasn't a kid. I did ride bikes a lot, like my 10 speed, I would ride a lot. But yeah, I was a runner. That was really the focus of my life at 11 years old. I was a very heavy runner. I ran a lot of track. And when I saw the BMX track, I was like, I mean, it was like the moment of my life where I was like, that's what I have to do.
Cool.
And it took me a while to get my dad to even agree that I could get a bike because he thought that looked very dangerous. And eventually my dad gave in. I found a bike at a garage sale and bought my first Power Light. And that was my first BMX bike. And yeah, and that was in 1983. That was in 1983. And then by 1984, I was already like chasing for the number one plate in the USA BMX thing for my age group.
Yeah.
Like, well, not my age group, but all the points would be combined. So if you had a bigger class than an 18-year-old, anyways, long story short, I was very natural at racing BMX. Like it
Yeah.
was very fun. I loved the competition of it. And then years later, I got into more of the cruiser side of racing. I really embraced cruiser. I really didn't love 20 inch as much as I loved the 24-inch.
I was the same.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that, but I was really good on the 24-inch.
Yeah.
And then I would that was in the 80s, and there was nowhere for a woman to go when they turned 18. So after the ABA Grands in 1989 or whatever, that was my last BMX race. I was like, well, I'm done. I'm going to be 18 next month and I'm done racing. So I stopped racing in basically December of 1989 when I turned 18. And then I graduated high school that year, went to college, and I had some friends that were pushing me to try this mountain biking thing. And I had been to one race in Mammoth just watching because I was up there camping. And I thought that was the craziest shit I'd ever seen in my life. I would never do that sport ever. And then a year later, I was there racing.
But I mean, you've just skipped over quite a successful BMX career. You just
Okay.
skipped over that there. There's still, there's some of the old school guys like Dale Holmes and that. They're always, they've got little channels and they're always posting old videos. And Todd Lyons is always. I don't know if you've ever seen any of Todd's videos where he commentates on them and stuff.
No, I mean, I follow Todd, but I don't spend a lot of time there on BMX, and I'll tell you why I probably don't spend a lot of time there is that it was like one of those times of my life that I also had a lot of hard things happen.
Fair enough.
And it's so there's not, even though I loved racing BMX bikes, I also had a lot of pain happen during my youth, whether it was my parents' marriage or I got into drugs. I had a lot of things that really shaped the way I saw BMX racing for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of it ended up sadly not being something I tried to remember.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So I know that's kind of heavy.
No, but that's
But
life.
the truth is that, it's like even now when I look back at like the BMX racing, and it's hard when you're a woman in your 50s. It's different if you're a guy in your 50s. But like all my friends were guys.
Yeah.
Like and the hardest thing is that when you're a 50-year-old woman, you're not broing down with your guy friends. Even though, I mean, I got no issues with that. Like I'm kind of a bro when it
Yeah.
comes to that.
Yeah.
But that's not really like how the world sees 50-year-old women. And that's to them weird. And so probably one of the reasons why I've always kind of struggled a little bit with relationships is that I've always been really comfortable talking with men
Mhm.
about, stuff.
Yeah.
And the world sees that as, oh, she's interested in that guy or she's cheating on her husband.
Yeah.
And so I, from like a guy's perspective, they probably look at BMX a whole different way. For
Yeah.
me, I look at BMX as I spent all this time with my guy friends,
Hmm.
and now I can't really be friends with them
Mm.
in the same way.
Yeah.
And so I have a different experience.
Yeah. Fair enough. But
But I'm
so
grateful for it. Super
yeah,
grateful for it. Like it definitely shaped me in ways that um allowed me to have this amazing mountain bike career.
yeah. And just before we move on to that, like who were your rivals that you raced against, and who were the people you hung out with back then?
I mean, of course, the people I hung out with were like Brian Lopes, Eric Carter, Dave Cullinan. I mean, there was lots of people that probably the audience wouldn't know who I hung out with. Brian Johnson, um, Jeff Schofield. There was a lot of people. I mean, this guy had a crush on Robert Swick.
I
I mean,
remember
there
that
was
name.
like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
remember Robert Swick? Oh God, I just loved him. Um, I just he was my everything. Anyways, I digress. But so those were like my crew, right? And I had my sister. My sister would be somebody at the races. A friend of mine, Deanna Edwards, she passed unfortunately, but she was somebody I hung out with a lot. Um, and then there was a lot of people, girls, like Sherry Elliott. I didn't race Sherry because she was a year older than me, so she was never in my class.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, my group of people that I competed with, I really was not friends with.
Okay.
And most of the people I did compete with, they all lived in different states, and it was just different. It wasn't, and it was like they were your rivals. Like this girl Holly Dunn, she lived in Arizona, and I really did not like her. Like she made racing a lot, like she made it difficult. She was not a good person when we raced, and she would do things that were really unprofessional, in my opinion. Like walk around with a T-shirt, and we're 13 years old, saying "I love Robert Swick" all over it because she knew I liked Robert.
No
Stuff
way.
like that would happen.
Seriously.
Yes, not lying. All over. She wrote it all over her shirt. "I
Wow.
love Robert Swick." We were like
Wow.
13 or 14 years old. Is that crazy?
No way.
Girls can get crazy. I mean, straight
Wow.
up.
Yeah.
So my experience with Holly turned me like not into being friendly with my competitors when I was young.
Uh-huh.
And but then there were people like Sherry Elliott and this girl Ray Andrews who were like a year ahead of me, and
Hmm.
I idolized them.
Yeah.
So it was like such a weird dynamic that most of my friends were just guys.
Yeah.
And those were the guys I rode with at the Orange Y BMX track, and that those are the guys that would teach me how to do things and
Yeah.
jump, and they helped me become the rider I was.
Yeah.
So I do look fondly on those memories, especially because I got to share my mountain bike career with those guys too.
Yeah. No, I mean, you three guys you mentioned there all had super successful mountain bike careers like you did, all from the
Yeah.
same area. And do you think, looking back, like, do you think that was where you grew up? Do you think it was probably the best place to live for getting into biking and BMX and mountain biking back then?
I mean, I think I wouldn't know if there was a better place, to be perfectly honest. I think that it's like in life, we time things differently and we get exposed to things differently, where it's like, for me, I don't know, but I imagine that I was lucky to be born around the same time as a Brian Lopes, and Eric Carter, a Dave Cullinan. I
Yeah.
was lucky to be born around a time where Orange YBMX was the hopping track
Yeah.
that everyone around the world wanted to go to and ride at.
Yeah.
And so my area was a hub for BMX for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, there was dirt jumps everywhere. We could drive here or drive there or drive wherever, and we could hit dirt jumps. And you can't do that today. So if you lived in Southern California today, that access it's gone. It doesn't exist.
Why is that, do you think?
It's called lawsuits, baby.
Got it. Yeah.
Lots of lawsuits.
Yeah.
People can't afford that,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, was it weird for you guys when all these foreigners started turning up to ride your local spots? Did you think that was weird, or did you just think it was part of it?
I mean, I thought it was so cool. Like when Christophe Levesque came, he was one of the first international riders to come ride. And I was older at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was like 18, 19, 20-ish. I was around that age. And Howie Long from Australia came. Oh God, I forget the kid from Belgium. He came. But anyways, we started getting writers that, this was in the like early 90s.
Yeah.
So they were like kind of the first people to come over and then that trend has just continued, right? I mean, up until they've closed the track.
Yeah.
But I personally always thought it was really cool because I had never been out of the country. I had never really been around people that spoke a different language.
Yeah.
I was pretty sheltered. Like I lived a very white person life in Southern California. And I really felt like personally, culturally, they brought something new to the table. I thought that was really good for our area and for us to maybe reach that maybe we wanted to go somewhere internationally.
Yeah. 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 And as the BMXing career was going, where did you go traveling to race? Where did you go out of the country much?
Never. I
Never.
never left the country. Never once. I mean, my parents really, they didn't have a lot of money. My parents were, my dad was a truck driver. He didn't make much money. My mom was a homemaker until I was 12, 13. Probably 13 because I think she started working when I was about 13, really to help pay for any of the BMX stuff. I was sponsored by a bike shop called Pedal Power. They were a pretty
That's a
big
famous
shop during
bike
the
shop. Yeah.
80s. Yeah. Rob Lynch owned Pedal Power. And so I would say that you know, international racing was not in my realm, not a chance. I mean, my parents probably wouldn't even have known how to get a passport or anything like that. We just weren't. My parents were really young when they had me, and I think that the first time my parents ever left the country, I mean, other than Canada, okay, we had been to Canada, but
Yeah.
other than leaving that, my parents had never gotten on an airplane and left the country before until 1996 when I sent them to Australia for the World
Wow.
Championships in Cairns.
Yeah.
So that was my parents' first international trip they'd ever taken.
Yeah. I guess America's that big and there's so many different states. It's kind of like going to a different country in some respects, isn't it?
It
Although,
was.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I think I was 12, and my parents put me, a 12-year-old, on an airplane to fly from California to Pennsylvania, which was literally across the country. I mean, it's further than any flight you're going to do in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a 5-6 hour flight.
Yeah.
And I landed there, no adults, mind you, taking a bus from New Jersey to get to Pennsylvania. I mean, it was crazy. I was 12 years old.
No, you weren't with any
It
other
was,
people.
yes, I was with two of my other teammates.
Okay.
One guy was 16 and one guy was 18.
Yeah.
I mean, would you ever do that with your daughter? Two boys that are that age? Hell no.
Pretty
Um,
scary.
I mean, don't even know what they were thinking. Had my own hotel, my own motel room in some shady area. Like I'm sleeping in my own room at 12 years old.
Yeah.
And no, there's no credit cards. I had no credit card. I
No.
had cash, only cash, and not much. And I remember that was one of my first trips where I really had to grow up. And that was probably one of the first times I had ever seen African American people. Because in Southern California, even though it's such a low percentage, I mean, like 2% of all Southern Californians are Black, right?
Yeah.
So, and everyone in Pennsylvania, a lot of the people in the area where we raced at were African American.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking that was the coolest shit ever because they could break dance like you've never seen people break dance. And I was so into break dancing.
No way.
So, that was a really cool experience. So that was kind of culturally like a new experience.
Hmm.
So just like probably feeling like if you're from the UK and you go to Spain, that's probably a new cultural experience. So you're right. America's pretty big in that regard.
Yeah.
I feel like the world has gotten a lot smaller now that I've traveled a lot.
Uh-huh.
But you're right. Like when I think back to an experience like that, that was a lot of firsts for me.
Hmm.
Um, and I would never have done that with my own 12-year-old, but my parents were young and
Yeah.
as we say, young and dumb.
Yeah. And times
You
are
don't
different.
know what you don't know.
No. And times have changed, haven't they? It has got a lot different, that's cool. It's a cool experience. So I've heard, other people talk about that, especially American BMXers getting to travel around the country at such a young age and learning life, I guess. Um, so yeah, I mean, who was the good and the bad influences on you back then? Would you say, or were they all pretty decent?
No, I mean, I think that I never really thought of people being good or bad. I mean, BMX was always really good for me in many ways, but also like I would say, not to throw him under the bus, but Robert Swick was also a really bad influence on me because he was, he he exposed me to wanting to be somebody I maybe wasn't. And
Right.
I tried to be somebody that, it's like girls do this a lot. Girls will change who they are because they are really interested in a boy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if guys ever go through that, but I feel like I would shift shape myself a little bit to be somebody that I wasn't.
Mm.
And so I think being a little boy crazy, which I definitely was boy crazy, maybe still am boy crazy in a way. Um, Grace will say all the time, Mom, you are like insanely boy crazy because I'm always like, he's so cute. But
Are you an
but
embarrassing
I
mom?
think oh my God, she gets so over me because she's like,
Oh.
girl, you are old. You should not think that guy is like hot. I'm like, I have eyeballs. I'm sorry, he's hot. It's like, so sorry. I'm not gonna like go after him or something. But anyways, I think that maybe my only bad influence probably was the fact that I was boy crazy and I would make decisions based on what I thought boys would like me for.
Yeah.
And
But I mean,
I think
you
probably
were in a more male dominated sport, and you're a good looking girl, so surely you had quite a lot of choice in the sport that you chose.
I think that the guys saw me differently than you're seeing me.
I'm
I
not
think that
sure they
I
did.
was now honestly, I mean, boys maybe did like me, but they never showed that they liked me. And I think that's
You're
why,
a bit intimidating, Lee. You might have
yes,
intimidated him.
yeah,
You
I'm
know.
sure I was. And I'm sure that that probably played its role. But when you're a girl who likes a boy and they're not showing you, like they're not saying they like you back, that creates insecurities in you
Mhm.
that get your mind thinking, right? And as I'm learning now in psychology, we can think all we want that the guy likes us, but there's a very good chance he doesn't like you. And so we get ourselves so worked up over somebody liking us and wanting them to like us that that really gets in your head. And I really noticed that as a young girl. And I think probably why Stick and I have lasted as long as we've lasted is that what we have is that like I know Stick loves me and I know he appreciates me and respects me just for who I am. I don't have to be anybody else.
Yeah.
And wow, to say that, and yeah, of course, nothing's perfect. I mean, we have our arguments often, but there's something solid there. And, when you're young, you're looking for something like that, but you're probably just not ready for something like that anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure. And well, obviously, when you went and watched that mountain bike race after the BMXing, at that point, had you thought you'd finish with racing bikes? Did you think you were going to do something else, or what did?
Oh, absolutely. I was so done racing bikes. Like, um, I mean, I rode mountain bikes a little bit and I rode road bikes a little bit because I like riding bikes.
Mm-hmm.
But I really never thought I would be like a professional athlete. I mean, we're talking the early 90s. Girls were, unless you were a tennis player, I mean, not even a golfer then. You didn't even see women pro golfers, really. I mean, there was very few women professional athletes, unless you were an Olympic sport. And they weren't really making a living. They were just skiers weren't what like a Lindsey Vonn is making today. In the early 90s, women were not making money. There wasn't basketball, there wasn't access to being a professional athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had, that dream that literally never even entered my mind. So when I had this opportunity to become a professional athlete, um, it was really almost difficult to wrap my head around it because that was something that I was never able to dream that.
Mm.
So to have that reality at like 20 years old, to now say, oh, hey, you can be a professional athlete at 20 years old. It took me a minute to be what? Like I couldn't even comprehend that.
And I've heard a few other people talk from your area. Guys that have similar thing. They did the BMX thing, then they stopped racing. They went and did a bit of other stuff, whether it's motocross, partying, whatever. And then they got all these opportunities where people were like, "Try this mountain biking." Do you think that was? I guess because you're in California again, a lot of the industry was there and it was new, so people were buying into it, and so people like you guys that could ride bikes amazing. It was these guys I guess wanted you to ride their bikes and promote them. Is that kind of how it went?
Yeah, I mean, in my case, no, because I don't think people were looking at women for that. Maybe guys,
Yeah.
like maybe the guys. I think like Lopes, for example, he was still racing BMX. He was
Yeah.
racing pro and he was pretty successful.
Yeah.
And so, Mongoose was his sponsor and they gave him a mountain bike. And Brian's introduction into mountain biking, was pretty fluid from BMX.
Yeah.
Cully was kind of like he was really between John Tomac and Cully. Those two guys were like your initial guys that started racing mountain bikes.
Yeah.
So Johnny T led the way for Cully.
Mhm.
Cully led the way for Lopes. Lopes led the way for Eric.
Yeah.
So like that all transitioned, and I was kind of part of the Lopes and Eric transition.
Yeah.
Whereas truly, actually, none of those guys introduced me to mountain biking. Some friends I graduated high school with were really into mountain biking. And so uh, Alan and John, they introduced me really, they got me out riding mountain bikes.
Yeah.
And personally, I thought mountain biking was brutal. Climbing hills was so not fun.
Yeah.
And, like the outdoors rattlesnakes and, just the elements. Like I was a BMX girl. I liked a perfect track. I liked being clean. I liked being able to take my helmet off and brush my hair. I mean, I was like a girl
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
liked riding BMX. I wasn't like an outdoor adventurer.
Yeah.
And so mountain biking was like, you had to be an outdoor adventurer. You had to be comfortable. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, you had to be comfortable taking a piss out in like the woods. And
Yeah.
I was not that girl.
Yeah.
Like, no, thank you. I liked wearing clean clothes all the time. I did not like being very sweaty,
Yeah.
which is hilarious to think that I spent almost 10 years racing mountain bikes,
Yeah.
6 years on the World Cup,
Yeah.
and never, I am not an outdoor girl.
Yeah.
So still to this day, like not my thing.
Yeah.
Even though I'll go out and hike or whatever, I'm not doing overnight hikes, or I don't enjoy doing 6 hour mountain bike rides. Like none of that's for me.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, really. When you put it that way, it's yeah, it is a lot different to BMX. I've took a few, you know, over my years of riding. I've took a few BMXs mountain biking that I thought would be good at it, and they absolutely sucked because the track isn't groomed, and there's roots and slippy rocks and stuff. Um, Whereas like some BMXs take to it no problem. Um, and so, when you edge back into racing mountain bikes and, Lopes and Cully and Eric and those guys were doing it, were you still in touch with them when you were not racing BMX, or had you kind of like not seen them and then you saw they were all doing it as well?
Yeah, no, I mean all of them. I was always really close to Brian.
Okay.
Like Brian was kind of like a brother to me.
Hmm.
He would, like, if I worked at wherever I worked at, Brian would come and meet me for lunch, or
Okay.
I always worked at restaurants. And EC and we were really good friends. We talked on the phone all the time. I would say Cully probably less than, but that I still would see Cully from time to time. Um, but I was in college at the time, so I was in university at the time, and that was kind of the life I had. That was my life. I was gonna be a social worker, and I knew what I was gonna do. And then yeah, the mountain biking thing kind of just fell in my lap, and my sister drove me to Mammoth for the first race. She had a really cool Jeep, and we had a really good time. And Haro Bicycles was they gave me a bike to race there.
Yeah.
I didn't have a proper mountain bike to like race.
Hmm.
And then Manitou, they gave me a fork at the race. So I had my first suspension fork. I mean, things happened so quickly from that race, which it was only because I did really well at the dual slalom.
Yep.
Downhill, and downhill was not natural for me. So you talk about how people transition from BMX to mountain biking, or riding, even just trail riding.
Yep.
None of that was natural for me. I think I was good at downhill, like I was good, but I
Yeah.
wasn't like the best.
Uh-huh.
And the dual slalom, now that was very BMX like.
Yeah. Mm.
And so I was immediately good at that. And
Yeah.
so the Mammoth race in 92, the dual slalom was just like, you're pro. So
Yeah.
I raced pro.
Yeah.
Not that I was pro, but I just
Yeah.
raced pro.
Yeah.
And I beat Missy Giove. I got third place. I was third place at the race, and I raced Missy Giove.
Uh-huh.
And I beat her. And to me, she just looked like some freak, but she, Missy's a sweetheart.
And Missy was, a huge celebrity in mountain biking, wasn't she?
She was
So,
pretty big deal. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I guess people, straight away thought, oh, what? Hang on a minute, and we're interested in sponsoring you. So, how did that transition into getting to do World Cups?
Yeah. I mean, that transition took a little while, I think. So after that race, and I did well in the dual slalom, Haro convinced me to go to the US National Championships that year in Durango. And like, this was all so weird for me. Like, they're paying for me to fly to Durango to race my bike, and so I raced there. I got a lot of attention from people, and I think you're right. Like now it's like, where, ooh, this cute girl can jump a bike kind of thing. It was like, that sounds so shallow, but that really was kind of the attention I was getting.
Yeah.
And like I brought some like new hype, right? Because none of the girls could ride like me.
Yeah.
Right? Not that I was better than them in by any means, but that there was something special about me, and which came from my BMX roots,
Yeah.
right? Like I knew how to ride a bike really well.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm hanging out with John Tomac, and in his club because I know Johnny, and
Yeah.
his mechanics helping me out, and Cully's there, and
Yeah.
so I'm looking like I'm somebody important,
Yeah.
right? You know, I don't realize this at that moment. At
Mm.
that moment, I'm so intimidated by everything that's happening. I'm feeling a ton of pressure. Um, and so I end up doing okay. I get fourth place in the dual slalom there. But I had this really big crash at the finish line of the downhill. My fork ripped off and like broke off from the steer tube. It was like a massive crash. And I swear that got me so much attention. It was wild. Like everybody was like talking about me and my crash. And then I thought, honestly, that was it. I was done. I did that. That was fun. I didn't do very good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think the craziest thing was is that basically I started racing professional from day one because I signed up for expert, and experts and pros race together. So I was
Yeah.
constantly competing with the pros from day one.
Yeah.
Um, and then I went back. Then I went back to school, and when I went back to school, I got Stickman, and I had become friends,
Hmm.
and he pushed me to get on this Iron Horse team Iron Horse,
Yeah.
and that was with the Verliki suspension. So then there was a full suspension downhill bike, and really, I mean, that's how it started. I moved to Durango that spring because I wanted to be closer to where all the famous riders were, and I wanted to throw myself in.
Wow.
And so 93 was like a really big learning season for me. I really struggled at downhill, really struggled. But dual slalom was really natural and easy for me, and I won lots of races.
Yeah.
Um,
And it was
and
important. Dual slalom was as important as downhill kind of back then, wasn't
no, I
it? Was it
mean,
not?
I think that dual slalom, like sadly, it still is. It was always the sidekick to the
Right.
downhill.
Okay. But it was bigger than it
And
is now. It was you were still if you could do good at dual slalom, you got sponsored, didn't you?
yeah, but I mean, you probably didn't make much money until maybe a few years later, maybe.
Hmm.
But I mean, I feel like the choice was very obvious. If you're only going to do one, you're doing downhill. So to me, that's the
Yeah.
predominantly, recognized sport or category.
Yeah.
For me, I just love dual slalom.
Hmm.
So there was no way I would never race dual slalom. I was
Yeah.
always going to be racing two events.
Hmm.
And I think, for me, I was in 93, I didn't know training. I didn't understand any of that. So by 94, I got on Diamondback,
Was that
and
with
Dave
Colin?
Weens, Cully was on the team, Dave
Yeah.
Weens was on the team, Susan DiMattei, Gunnar Shogun was on the team, Darren Henderson was on the team. So we had a pretty good collective group of individuals that mostly trained pretty hard. And so I got really exposed to these riders.
Yeah.
Um, and some of it was not good because I overtrained. I was too skinny. I did a lot of things that later I learned to adjust, and that being a downhiller, you can't weigh 120 pounds. I mean, you can, but it's not in your best interest to be
Yeah.
skinny as a
Yeah.
downhiller. You want to be more bulky
Strong.
and powerful.
Yeah. And at this point, were you getting paid salaries and stuff to race?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on Iron Horse, no salary. That was a really, I look back at it, like talk about taking advantage of an athlete. I had a $2,000 cap on my bonuses, and that's all. That's all they gave me.
Hmm.
So I raced, I lived on my own, I had bills, whatever. And that was so I had to work too. Like I worked, I had to travel, all these things. That year was really hard for me financially. Like I was maxing out credit cards, and then when I got on Diamondback, I got a $20,000 salary plus a very nice bonus package. So every month, I was getting this $1,666.66 check
Yeah.
every month.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? All those sixes. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, is that a bad sign? All those sixes.
I remember writing a salary for one of my riders, and it was that much every month. Yeah.
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 And so they got $20,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that because that was the freaking most money I'd ever gotten in
Yeah.
my life. And that check came every freaking month.
Yeah.
And that changed my whole life.
Yeah.
That changed how I thought about myself, how
Mhm.
I saw this as a career. And that I would say 94, even though I think that team overall was a bit of a struggle for me because everybody was so successful on the team and so known. And wasn't, I was really struggling to find my place on that team. I would say that was the year that I I found out that I realized how much I loved bikes and that I kind of wanted to try and figure out how I could make this work.
Okay. Yeah. And so how many years did you ride for Diamondback? Just the 1 year.
Just that year. Yeah.
Then where did you go
And
from
then
there?
and then I went to Mongoose.
Okay. Yeah. I was going
So
to ask you about Mongo.
that was the life-changing moment I'd say for riding because I found the right, I would say like the right combination of support.
Yeah.
Mongoose was very generous. Bob Markovicus was the president of Mongoose at the time. And I remember, I asked for more than I was making at Diamondback. And
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wanted to sponsor me because I didn't really have that great of a downhill year on Diamondback.
Okay.
And so Bob, I mean, like this was in January. I didn't even have a ride until like January.
Uh-huh.
And so, I mean, it was a very stressful off season. And and Bob, I said, hey, I've got health insurance I got to pay for. Can you give me a little extra for that? He said, no problem. He gave me the most incredible bonus package. And later that year, I had maxed out my bonus package. I had an incredible year. I had an incredible coach. Stick was our mechanic and team manager. Brian was my teammate. Like we had this it was clicking. Everything
Yeah.
was clicking.
Hmm.
And Brian and I both won the dual slalom national championships that year. We won the downhill national championships that year. And then we went into the world championships. At this point, I mean, I was so not going to win the world championships. I mean, that was like, I had barely been to a World Cup. I think I'd been to like,
Was this
what?
95?
This was in 95.
Okay.
And so I've maxed out all my bonuses. I've had this amazing year going to worlds. I literally electrocute myself before my run on one of the fences,
Oh yeah.
checking out the first turn, one of those animal fences,
Yeah.
fully freaking electrocute myself. And it had just rained the night before, and we didn't get to do practice. There was no practice the morning of the race. So it's not like today.
Yeah.
So you just went on the track blind.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm from SoCal, so it rained all night. I'm like, motherfucker, like, I
Yeah.
mean, could you be nicer to me, please? Like, so
And
I went down, checked out
did
the
you have
first
like
turn.
IRC tires on or something?
We rode Panaracers.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the
Yeah.
time we were on Panaracer.
Yeah.
And we were riding our Nikolai, the first Nikolai downhill bike. So Nikolai was, he had built a bike for the team.
Yeah.
And so I remember walking up to the start house. I'd just gotten electrocuted. I was just like super frustrated. And Giovanna Bonazzi, she looks at me as I'm walking up and she's like checking me out. And, she's like Giovanna Bonazzi, like she's the best ever. And so she's like, oh, are you happy with that bike? Like she says it in like her Italian, like weird. And
Yeah.
first of all, I don't even know she'd ever even spoken to me before. And it wasn't good English.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like that was the weirdest thing ever. And I swear to God, it just pissed me fucking off. I was so mad because it just was so disrespectful. Now, fast forward, I totally love Giovanna and
Yeah.
I'm totally friends with her. But at that moment, I swear that must have just been between the getting electrocuted and whatever. I freaking won that race.
No
and
way.
and it was, and I won by, like a lot. I
Yeah.
won by like 9 seconds.
Yeah.
And I know there's like this whole controversy with Anne Caroline and this whole thing. I know I would have beaten Anne in that run. I
Yeah.
know I would have.
Yeah.
I just know the run was so incredible. like I was in such a zone. And the other times I have beaten Anne, I
Yeah.
knew I won when I came across the finish line. I wasn't even worried about anybody else. The races I have won in the World Cup, I
Mhm.
knew the second I came across the finish line, I won. Like I could have been there could have been five riders after me.
And
I
but you
know
knew
when
as well.
I'm on. I
Yeah,
just knew when I was on a winning run.
fair enough. And did you every time you won, were you looking for an electric fence?
I never wanted one again, even though that probably would have been good luck. But that always stuck with me. But I did not enjoy getting electrocuted. But that probably was good luck.
Cool. And so what when you won that World Championships then, how did that change stuff then from then on? I mean, did you get a really good bonus for that, I imagine, off
Yeah,
the news?
and that was cool. Mongoose, they gave me my bonus, even though they didn't have to because I'd already maxed out my bonuses. That afforded me to buy the house I bought that year. I bought a brand new car. My life just changed.
And is this all
Kind
off
of,
bonuses? Like, I mean, you don't have to say, but what kind of
no, no, no.
money are you
I
talking?
think the bonus to win Worlds was like, I think it was like $25,000.
Wow.
I mean, just that year, I think that year I made like $180,000 in 1995.
Is that
And
salary
that
and
doesn't
bonuses?
salary, bonuses, prize money,
Yeah.
and then Arnett sunglasses, they had come on as a sponsor. They paid me $10,000 to be an athlete that year. It was pretty amazing. I mean, I have to say, like, um, there were a lot of people that were quite generous with me at the time. I mean, my salary was small at Mongoose, but
Yeah.
my bonuses were big.
Yeah.
And so I would say at Mongoose, I probably made like $120,000 that year. I probably made like $100,000 in bonuses.
That's good,
And
isn't it?
then, and then I had Arnett. Arnett had bonuses. I had prize money. Prize money was decent back then. And we raced a good number of races between Norbas. I didn't do a ton of World Cups because I didn't do a lot of international racing
Yeah.
until 96.
Okay.
That was the first year we started doing that's the first year really I was full time on the World Cup.
And
So
why
I
did
only
you
did
decide to do that? Was that a thing that you wanted to do or something Mongoose wanted to do? How did that come
I
about?
think that was just like, I mean, I was, yeah, I was world champion.
Yeah, so you won the World Championships in '95. Did that what was the was that the change in wanting to go and race the World Cup in '96? Was that like a sponsorship thing, a you thing, or was it just the whole package really?
I think going into 96, um, that was just the natural transition. We had matured as a team.
Mhm.
We saw ourselves as more than just Norba or, US national racers. At the time, the Norba series really was the dominant series,
Yeah.
right? The World Cup was in a way kind of secondary to the US national series.
Hmm.
So we did have a lot of international competition here, but we didn't have the same tracks
Yeah.
as Europe.
Hmm.
And probably one of the reasons why we were so intimidated to go out in the World Cup was weather, the unknown. And we were just like SoCal kids, you know, who never saw rain or snow or real mountains. And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden we're in the Dolomites or, you know, we're in Sierra Nevada in Spain. And, you know, that stuff was pretty intimidating for us. And we were very inexperienced.
Hmm.
But I think in 96, we were ready for that challenge. And yeah, I mean, that was definitely some of the funnest racing of my whole career was in 96.
Cool. And just to look back, obviously you were riding for Mongoose, which was a huge bicycle brand, but I guess they didn't have their own downhill bike, did they? So did you ride Intense that year?
No, so in 96, we did a partnership with Outland Bike. So
Oh,
the VPP linkage,
yeah,
that was, I don't know if you're familiar with the
I
Outland
am.
bike. That
Yeah,
was basically, Santa Cruz ended up buying that, that
yeah,
platform, right?
yeah,
So, and Intense ended up using the platform as well.
yeah,
Um, we were Outland was like the original VPP linkage bike.
yeah,
So in 96, that's what we raced. The Outland bike was more of like a regular bike. It had a steeper seat tube. Um, it pedaled really nicely. It had like a regular triangle frame. It was pretty much just like a regular bike. And I think for Brian and I, it suited our riding style a lot better than, even the Nikolai bike for us because we were pedalers.
yeah.
And some of a lot of the downhill bikes at that time, and they had the bikes maybe worked when you were downhilling, but the linkage systems weren't designed for pedaling.
Hmm.
And the bike was light. It was something we could go ride like our training rides on. We could put slicks on the bike, and so we were on our bikes all the time, which I think inevitably made us really comfortable on our bike.
Yeah.
And um and I think that just ended up transitioning to feeling comfortable on our downhill all the time because we were on the same bike, whether we were pedaling or we were, racing. And yeah, so I think that bike really suited us personally.
Yeah.
And then and we had very successful years on the downhill. I mean, I won my first World Cup that year in Mount St. Anne.
Yeah.
By like almost 5 seconds, I beat Anne Caroline, which was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it was, and I knew when I came across the finish line, I knew I won that race. Like she hadn't even come down yet, I don't think, but I'm pretty sure I was like, yeah, I won that race. I just know I won. Um, and and then So by the end of that year, I got second at Worlds. That was heartbreaking. It was 0.18 seconds I lost to Anne by. So that was, nowadays that's normal. But
Yeah.
back then that wasn't very normal.
No, no, no.
um, and then we went on the Intense bike
Okay.
starting in 97.
Okay. Yeah. I remember you were on them in 97 and 98.
97 and 98, we were on Intense.
Yeah. Yeah. And how were that was on the M1?
We were on the M1. I mean, yeah, we were on the M1 both years. Yep. And Mongoose did like a relationship. They bought 500 frames each year in a certain colorway, and then Mongoose sold those to dealers across the world.
When you won that 95 Worlds,
Go
did
ahead.
was that a moment that you thought, you know, this is life changing? Like, was it that big mountain biking in that year that you thought, whoa, this is going to be insane?
No, I mean, I really never thought that highly of myself. I was just doing my job and trying to win bike races, and especially in downhill, I definitely didn't think I was that good. At that point, my only big downhill I had won was a short track in Michigan. And that was the only downhill I'd ever won. I'd never won a national champion. I did win the national downhill title,
Yeah.
but I had only won one downhill ever. And
Hmm.
so when I won world champs, you know, at the time I knew that I had an amazing run. And the track definitely suited me. It was definitely suited towards a pedaler.
Okay.
I didn't give myself enough credit for the work I had done to get there.
Yeah.
So I didn't look at it like it was life changing.
Hmm.
If anything, I didn't enjoy the pressure that came with it. And so going into, even though I had a great off season, I had an amazing coach, I had an amazing team around me. I had just bought my first house. I mean, my life was, it was pretty incredible. Like, I mean, I would have never dreamed to be 23 years old and have a life that way. Like never. I would have never imagined that. So I was achieving things that literally like being an athlete, being a professional, being world champion. None of those were ever in my goals of my life. Even that year, I mean, my goal was not to be world champion. It just happened. And so the next year, now shit's getting real, right? Now, they say it's harder to stay on top than to get on top, right? Facts. And so now how do you handle pressure? And so we showed up to the first race, not World Cup. They had the first international race in Bercy in Paris, where we raced the indoor
Oh, yeah.
race, because
Yeah.
they used to do these indoor races in
Yeah.
Bercy.
Hmm.
And that was the first time I had seen all the French people from all the Anne Caroline drama and the booing me on at the World Championships. There's this whole other thing that happened to me, which was
What?
super unprofessional.
So what happened
Um,
there? What? Because that was before I started racing.
so yeah, so when I won the World Championships at the awards ceremony, I knew nothing of anything.
Yeah.
I just knew I won. I didn't even realize what had happened with Anne Caroline and that she wasn't able to race the elite class because she was too young, but she had qualified with the elite class. So there was all this stuff that went on. I had no idea of any of it. And so I found out that she couldn't race because she was too young.
Yeah.
She wasn't old enough to race in the elite class.
Hmm.
And so she won her race. I won mine. I would have loved to have her in the race. I wish still to this day that they would have let her race because I think I would have beaten her.
Yeah.
But regardless, there's that unknown that will always be there. But at the awards ceremony, all the French people booed me getting my rainbow jersey. It was very rude. It
Yeah.
ruined the whole moment for me. It's nothing. I don't look at it as a special moment receiving my rainbow jersey. There was nothing good about it.
Wow.
That actually there was nothing positive. So I think there was this sense that the French had given me this they created this insecurity with the rainbow jersey for me. And so when I showed up to French soil to race the race in Bercy in 96,
Hmm.
I mean, I would not put the rainbow jersey on. So I did not race in a rainbow jersey. I raced in my just regular jersey, my mongoose regular jersey. And I was like, I am beating Anne Caroline at this race. And I did.
Yeah.
I did. I won.
Yeah.
And that was cool. Like, that helped me feel like, sure, I was never going to be, and I never was or am, or Anne Caroline is a goat. I have so much respect for her.
Hmm.
And to have beaten her, more than once
Yeah, you did.
is,
Yeah.
it's a pretty awesome, right? Like it wasn't like I just beat her once. I've beaten her
Yeah.
multiple times. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, I have massive respect, tons of
Mhm.
respect. But at that time in my career, the pressure of the rainbow jersey was real. It was something I understand now when I see riders that are struggling with the rainbow jersey to like get back on top. I understand that feeling, that pressure of it.
Mhm.
And I sucked at the first two World Cups of that season. I got sixth in both of the World Cups.
Mhm.
And I went home, reset myself.
I mean, sixth place isn't bad at a World Cup.
When you're wearing a rainbow jersey, sixth is really bad,
Sure.
really
Yeah.
bad.
Hmm.
And especially when the circumstances were that I wasn't good enough to be wearing it. And now I was showing that I wasn't good enough to be wearing
Yeah.
it. Um, so I was determined to show up to what I would say was probably one of the hardest race courses on the circuit
Hmm.
and prove that I was worthy of wearing that rainbow jersey.
Yeah.
And that turned my whole season around, was winning that World Cup in Mount St. Anne.
Yeah.
And not winning by like a few split seconds. I won
Yeah.
by like almost 5 seconds.
Uh-huh.
And that was where I knew I belonged.
Hmm.
And for the rest of the year, I just had an amazing season. I was not that I was winning every World Cup,
Yeah.
um, but I was on every podium. I was winning tons of US races. I was winning all the slaloms. Like
Hmm.
96 was my year.
Yeah.
Like out of all my seasons, that was probably, other than 2001, the year I retired, which was also another great year for me.
Yeah.
Um, that was definitely one of my favorite years of racing.
Sure. And obviously Mongoose, it wasn't like a full mountain bike brand, was it? It was like a BMX brand. It was a bicycle brand. Were they using you guys for all the marketing for the normal bikes in the normal bike shops and stuff? How did that kind of work with Mongoose?
Yeah, Mongoose really embraced us. They really liked Brian and I.
Yeah.
Um, by by this time, 96 rolls around, Bell Helmets now owns Mongoose.
Ah, yeah,
So Bell is a big component of our team.
yeah,
And now we have, like, a new president. Brad Hughes is our president, who just recently passed away. Very sad. But he was the president. Brad, he really embraced us. Um, and yeah, like 96, 97. And maybe it was like a transition with Bob. But anyways, um, this is where um, I would say we were in lots of marketing, whether it was their paperwork that they would send out to shops. Brian and I would be on the cover of it writing, or
yeah,
I mean, there's so much material that they used us for,
yeah,
internally, externally. The ads started coming out. They did a ton of really fun ads in like Velo News or
yeah.
in Mountain Bike Magazine, or Brian and I were definitely like, they really liked us a lot.
And you guys
And
did an amazing
it
job.
was fun.
Mm,
Yeah, and I think that we really loved Mongoose. Like that was we it was like a win-win.
yeah,
We loved being part of the Mongoose brand, and
yeah,
Mongoose really liked having us.
yeah.
And until 1998, when they were purchased by the big huge billion-dollar company Brunswick,
Hmm.
um, you know, everything still seemed fairly small.
Hmm.
And then when we got on Brunswick in 1998, it just changed everything.
Mm,
It not only just changed the team, but it changed us
yeah,
because, like they put me in, like I had a big ad in Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition in 1998.
yeah,
And that was a pretty big deal. Like I
yeah,
was in that, and, I started believing the hype. I started thinking, "Ooh, I'm somebody important."
yeah.
And I think when we start to get to that place in our lives, um, that really ruins us.
Mm.
And I would say that year was a really ugly year for. I look at myself like it just wasn't a year I really liked who I was in hindsight.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And but that was kind of when I started doing a few World Cups and stuff. And at that point, you guys were like, superstars to us that had been watching the TV and the mountain bike magazines and stuff. And I guess like around 98, downhill was pretty big, wasn't it? It was big time.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like it. I mean, it felt like it was on major channels, whether it was Eurosport or it was on ESPN in America. I
Yeah.
mean, we were sought after with the X Games. I mean, we did. It did seem like it was pretty big time. I mean, financially, like that year in '98, I made a lot of money,
Was
like
that your
almost
best
four
year?
hundred thousand dollars that year.
Wow. That's
That
that
was by far my financially my best year, for sure, my best year.
that's a lot of
um
money in
but like that's a
98.
lot of money for 1998. Yeah, a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so the sport was paying well. Prize money was incredible.
Uh-huh.
Bonuses. I was at the point where I was so confident in myself that I would negotiate incredibly high bonuses for wins.
Yeah.
And I'd have a week. I would have a weekend where I would make I'd make over $10,000 just in bonuses,
Yeah.
not prize money.
Uh-huh.
And that would happen every weekend almost.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Unreal. But you know that's what happens in other sports, isn't it? There's crazy prize money in other sports. You know, it's just our sport has never paid huge prize money like other mainstream sports. And so when you started traveling, doing all the World Cups and traveling in Europe and getting used to, being in Europe and stuff, who obviously you had, Stick around you and Brian and stuff, but who were some of the people that you kind of became good friends with that you were outside of your bubble?
Oh, well, I mean Mercedes. I'm sure you remember
Yeah, of
Mercedes
course.
Gonzalez.
Yeah,
I mean Mercedes ended up becoming my best friend. So I mean, she was on GT, so I spent a lot of time with Eric Carter, Steve Pete.
yeah,
I think Nicholas was on the team when she first was on the team.
yeah.
Sabrina Jonier, like
No, Van,
Noven Lacar.
yeah,
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 remember her?
yeah,
Noven Lacar.
yeah,
Yeah, she was. I mean, so there was a lot of people. Like, I really spent a lot of time with GT
yeah,
because of Mercedes.
yeah,
So all the staff there, whether it was Doug or Lori McKnight, or there was so many people that they kind of were like my second home, I would say.
yeah,
And that was really fun for me because while I love Brian and Stick, that circle was pretty small.
yeah, yeah. Sure. And then after what happened with Mongoose? What happened with the Mongoose team?
Yeah, they just one day told me they were going to call me with an offer on, let's say they called me on the Thursday. They said, okay, we're going to we're going to get you an offer by Monday. And then the next day they told me that I was dropped from the team. And that was pretty late in October.
Wow.
And that was, again, like I said earlier in the conversation, how, I really hated that time of every year
Yeah.
negotiating contracts.
Yeah.
Um, because after that, after the 4 years of being with Mongoose, and it was pretty, I would say pretty easy every year. Um, then that was my reality check that, yeah, you might have made a lot of money this year, but you're probably going to make very little money next year
Yeah.
because now you have nothing. You have
Yeah.
nothing.
Hmm.
Um, I was very lucky that I had people in my corner that, like Jeff Stieber at Intense, I had Shimano, I had Manitou, Azonic, like no, sorry, not Azonic, Troy Lee Designs.
Yeah.
I had people that stepped up for the team,
Yeah.
so I was able to put a team together relatively quickly
Hmm.
with Intense,
Yeah.
and it was my team. It was I ran the team. I put the riders on the team. And it was cool. Like, I learned I could do shit. Like,
Yeah.
not just ride bikes. I could actually organize and do shit. It was cool.
Yeah. It was a cool looking team.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I'm in a way, even though that was one of the hardest times of my life, losing that sponsorship with Mongoose. Um, it gave me the insight that I was more than just a bike racer.
Yeah.
And I think it was a gift. And in the long run, it was a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. These times like that show you, make you do things that you don't realize you can do, and then it makes you a better person.
I have to say, at this stage of my life now, that I've had some really hard times where the door has closed very quickly and I felt very discouraged, and how every single time that has happened to me, something amazing has come from it. And so I think I've learned now that a closed door is less of a closed door and more of a new open door.
Yeah. Good. Good analogy. Yeah. And so obviously, fast forward into 2001 when you decided to call it a day. What was the reasons behind that?
There were so many things that kind of spawned that. that decision. But I'd say like in 2000, I had some pretty gnarly injuries that year.
Yeah.
I had kind of early in the season ripped the ligaments off of my left ankle.
Hmm.
And then towards the middle of the season, I literally cracked my pubic bone hitting the back of my seat and tore my groin. And then at the last race of the season, I ripped the ligaments off of my right ankle
Oh,
and spent about 3 full months not walking well in therapy for 4 days a week.
yeah.
And I think that just, walking was important to me.
Yeah.
Like, and I was pretty lucky. I didn't have a ton of major injuries ever in my whole career.
Yeah.
And that was really major. And I just thought to myself, you know what? You're still fast.
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot of women over 30 racing bikes.
No.
So I was almost going to be 30 the next year.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I want to have a family. I don't even know if I can sit still. I mean, I've spent my whole life on the road
Yeah.
from basically 12 to 30. I've been on the road most of my life.
Yeah.
Can I even sit still? Can I be
Yeah.
a normal person?
Yeah.
I had so many questions, and I really wanted to retire on top.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to be like knowing I could roll into the gate and win.
Yeah.
I never wanted to just be okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to roll in and win.
Yeah.
And I knew that I could still do that.
Hmm.
Even I knew like, and so I just was like, that was my retirement year. We made t-shirts
Yeah.
almost a decade, and we had these like cool shirts made up and we sold them at all the races.
Yeah.
And it was the funnest year of racing. I
Cool.
knew I wasn't looking for sponsorship afterwards. I like everything was so fun.
Yeah.
Best year for me, for sure.
Brilliant. Well, that's a good way to end it because, like you say, a lot of athletes, it's difficult, isn't it, to stop and then know what to do next. And a lot of athletes keep going, and unfortunately, they're nowhere near as good as they were, and then people remember that. It's a hard one to call it a day on, isn't it?
Yeah, the thing is, what I look at now in my life, now that I've spent many years away from being a professional athlete, is that, we only get so much time on Earth.
Yeah.
And does it really matter how people remember us as much as if we love what we're doing?
Yeah.
And, like I came back 9 years later. I raced in 2010 and I was 38 years old. And I mean, yeah, granted, I worked all the time. I had two businesses. I had a young 5 year, I had a girl who was turning 5 years old that
Yeah.
year. My life was insane in 2010.
Yeah.
And I had 5 hours a week to train. That was all I had. And I loved racing that year.
Yeah.
And I thought often to myself, like, wow, I could have been racing till I was 38 years old. Like,
Yeah.
I could have maybe been racing till I was 40 years old,
Hmm.
doing something I truly love. Now, granted, having my retail business and doing the tangerine thing, I really think that shaped me to be the person I am today.
Yeah.
So I have a lot more female relationships, which I appreciate, which maybe I wouldn't have had if I would have stayed racing.
Yeah.
Which I will say today, I love that there's so many females racing and they are all supportive of each other. And I'm
Yeah.
a huge fan of racing still. So it makes my heart so happy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that we have these ideas of what is like, when should you quit or this or that. I think that we all have different paths, and I really admire people that stay racing because they just love it so much and they're willing to take the risk and not worry about their legacy.
Hmm.
So I think differently now than I did when I was 30.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Some people want to retire on top, and other people, like you say, they just love it so much. Why not do it as long as you can if you're able to do it? Like you say, we're only here once, and whatever makes you happy, I think, is the better way to go, isn't it?
I think we put a lot of pressure on what other people think about us. And I really think that when we can learn to like ourselves and like what we're doing, I
Yeah.
think that's winning in life. And it doesn't matter if you're standing on the top of a podium or you're hanging out at the finish line because you
Yeah.
didn't qualify, but you're there supporting other riders. Like, um, I I think living your life is more important than living the life of what other people think you should be living.
True. Good words. Good words. You'd think you were going to college or something, learning all this.
I love college. It's so awesome.
So have you took up partying and stuff again now at college? Do you go to all the college parties?
No, I know. I was thinking, like, should I join a club? Should I, get in a sorority?
Brilliant. And is the
Good time.
have you got new friends of all different ages at college?
I wouldn't say I've made friends at college, but there's a lot of students that are actually my age.
Is that
So, the college I'm the college I'm at right now, there's a lot of retired military that go there.
okay?
So they're all like me, kind of starting a new career, a new life path.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I would say half the students are like, young 20-year-olds.
Hmm.
And I would say the other half are more, 30s, 40s, 50s.
Okay. Brilliant. Good stuff. Well, it looks like
Yeah,
sounds like you're enjoying it, so that's amazing.
I love it. I love it. And Stickman's my sponsor, so I really appreciate him a lot.
Of course. Yeah, cool. And just going back to the current mountain biking, obviously now the women's field in BMX and mountain biking, there's some incredible bike riders, isn't there? I mean, you guys laid down the pathway for that. You guys were incredible in your era, and now they're getting, everyone's the guys, the girls, everyone's just getting so good on the bikes. Um, what do you like? Do you still watch the World Cup and do you watch Hardline and all the different races that's going on?
Yes, big fan here.
Yeah,
Big fan. Been watching the hardline videos
yeah,
this morning actually, and yeah, I don't know if I've ever really stopped being a fan of racing. There was a time where the access of watching it was harder, like during like the Rachel Atherton years, it was
yeah.
harder to watch it,
Uh-huh.
but but now, we get to watch all the races. I love Vital, like, I think I was like, on the top 50 Vital last year. I mean, I
Nice.
played every race weekend, super into that.
Cool.
Um, yeah, and I mean, I'm a pretty big fan. I don't know if you know, but in 2019, I was the downhill national team coach at Worlds at Mount St. Anne. And that was such a fun year, getting to know a lot of the juniors and kind of re-immersing myself in being on the race circuit and being at a literal race, because I don't get to do that
Yeah.
very often.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, but I love racing. I'm a big fan of I mean, the women are so incredible. And I mean, and the juniors blow my mind at
Cool.
how the talent pool that is there. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably, to me, it's probably one of the most exciting times of racing across the board between juniors and elites.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I was even part of the history,
Yeah. Oh, well, you were a huge part of the history. And like you said now that some of the junior times, men and women, they're rivaling the fastest elite women and men in the world. I mean, it's going to be an incredible race season this year, I think. Who's your kind of favorite riders as a fan looking in from the outside?
um I mean, I love Oisin O'Callaghan. Is that his last name?
Yeah.
O'Callaghan, right? Yeah. And I mean, Luca Shaw's my number one. I'm like, Luca's like our child. He's
Yeah.
like, I call myself his West Coast mom. So I
Okay.
love Luca.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm I mean, there's quite a few riders I would say that, I'll watch and I'll be like, oh my God, he looks so good on his bike. I love that rider. On the women's side, um, I'm a huge fan of Allie. I
Uh-huh.
just her work ethic and her style. I've been, Stick and I have known of her since she was a teenager. So like, 13 years old, watching videos of her that her dad would send to Stick when he worked at TLD.
Yeah.
So Valley, huge fan of Valley. Gracie Hemstreet, huge fan. Anna Newkirk, I adore Anna. She's like one of my favorite people. So
Cool.
I'm a huge fan of Anna. Um, and I'm excited to see some of the juniors step up this year,
Hmm.
which will be really exciting. And I'm drawing a blank on her name, the junior girl who I think she's going to have a second season. I think she's Austrian. Um, the junior girl who I think she won the World Cup this year, or last year, 25.
Yeah.
Drawing a blank.
Yeah.
And if you said her name, I would know. Anyways, I adore her. She's silly.
Yeah.
She's a great composed writer.
Yeah.
She seems like she's been racing for 10 years the way she comes down a track.
Is
And
it
I
Rosa?
really think she is going to be a, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. She's an incredible bike rider, isn't she?
yes, yes. And there's another girl too. There's two junior girls that are like amazing, but I think one is going to elites this year, one's still a junior.
And then
And
you've got
anyways, the junior field really impresses me.
the American girl, Alicia. She's amazing, isn't she?
Oh God, Allie is amazing.
Yeah.
She's and I think I like kind of like myself. She's going to be one of those riders that's really going to start surprising people when she starts getting comfortable being on the circuit,
Yeah.
being in new weather conditions.
Yeah.
And it is a tough transition from America to
Yeah.
the World Cup.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like she dominates here,
Yeah.
but it is different. It's different being in a new place, eating
Yeah.
different food, being away from your like comfort zone,
Yeah.
new language, new terrain.
Yeah.
She's definitely, I think she's a junior again this
Yeah.
year. And
Yeah.
I put my money on her winning the World Cup. I put my money on her winning World Cup this year. She'll win.
Yeah. And not going back to like when you were younger, and it's no disrespect to anyone in the sport, but she looks like a super girly girl as well, doesn't she? As well as being an incredible bike rider. And unfortunately, I think that the industry people and marketing people, they pick up on that, and she can. I guess is that something that's hard to deal with as a female athlete, or is that does it sometimes help you getting sponsorship, or I've never had to deal with that, so I don't really understand it.
Yeah. I mean, of course, like being the pretty girl is definitely, it benefits you in ways if you're good. And
Hmm.
we see this across the board, like, motocross, they have the pro motocross girls out there
Yeah.
racing now and they're really cute. And
Yeah.
it's like hard not to notice that.
Yeah.
As an older woman now, that sexism is really still alive, and I hear it a lot, especially from men.
Mm.
And it makes me almost like sad because we put such an emphasis on beauty over humanity.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, oh, that girl, yeah, she's fast, but she's not that cute.
Mm.
That freaking sucks.
Yeah.
And the pressure to be cute. Like I'm 54, and because that was part of who I was as a person, as an
Yeah.
athlete, of being cute,
Mhm.
even getting ready for this podcast, I'm like, well, I don't want to look 54. I got my Haley Williams sweatshirt on, so I look cool. And,
You're
I'm
always
like,
cool
I
though,
want to
Lee.
still look like I'm young. Well, but even going to school, it's like the pressure of feeling like I'm not ugly or this. That is a really heavy weight for women to carry. Men don't carry that. And so as a woman athlete that is attractive, that is a double weight that they carry, and
Yeah.
that's shitty. And it sucks for women that aren't genetically born beautiful,
Mhm.
that that's something that they have to live with, and that's not fair to them,
Yeah.
because a talent should speak for itself.
Yeah.
And I know that that is not the world we still live in, but I hope that more people will make judgments, especially when it comes to sponsorships, more on the person's quality
Yeah.
versus their exterior representation.
Yeah. Yeah. For
On
sure.
that note, on that note, guess what? This girl's got to go to
You've got
college,
to go to college.
university, baby.
Brilliant. Well, that it's been. I could have gone on chatting loads more, Leigh, because you've got so much history, so much things I wanted to ask you. But maybe we'll pick up another time when if you've got time, and we'll do another one because there's tons of stuff I could ask you, and I think your experience, what you're doing now, what you've done, you would make the most perfect team manager in a modern team. So
I would love that.
there
Bring
you
me
go.
on.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I'm I'm open for business.
all right. Well, there you go. Come on the Stare on
All
Your
right,
Bike
Nige.
podcast. Brilliant.
Love you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
say
Thank you. We'll
hello to
talk soon.
everyone. Okay. Bye. Hope everyone enjoyed that podcast. I could have gone on chatting to Leigh for hours. She's had an amazing career, amazing person, and full of energy as always. What a cool dude. Um, well, yeah. Hope you all enjoyed that. This podcast has been brought to you by Abus. Um, got incredible helmets, and they've got a new one launching in the not too distant future. So keep your eye out for that. I'm super excited to get one of those. We're going to be a dealer at number 55 Bikes when we're open next month. So if you want to come and check out an Abus helmet and you're in the valley, we'll have the full range in there. So please like and subscribe. Please, that really helps us. And I hope you've enjoyed the episode, as I said. And yeah, we'll see you all soon. Take it easy.